Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, Hare Krishna. How long should I speak for? 1 hour. We have one. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Atafpada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone please say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you. I speak in English? Yeah, okay. I don't know Telugu. Could speak in Hindi if you want, but I think prefer English. Okay. So you're all students here, I presume? Students of Osmania University. The intelligent class. One symptom of intelligence might be if you come and sit in the chairs instead of standing up. It's not unintelligent to stand up, but as there are chairs, you might as well occupy them. Yeah, so you are the intelligent class. So let's have a little quiz here. What are some of the symptoms of intelligence? This shouldn't be a very difficult question. What are some of the characteristics of intelligence? Anyone? Confidence. Well, actually, confidence, that could be a symptom of foolishness also, in some circumstances. For instance, if I was to go and challenge to a boxing match the world boxing champion, I might be confident, but that would be foolish, because he would just go like that and finish me off. So, confidence is not necessarily a symptom of intelligence. At least perfection, that's somewhat nebulous. Means it's not very clear what it means. Perfection also doesn't necessarily require intelligence. For instance, 20 years ago, someone might have said that the perfect, beautiful woman is Aishwarya Rai. But that doesn't mean, I'm not saying she's not intelligent, she is actually quite intelligent in many ways, but the perfection of her beauty is not necessarily synonymous with intelligence. Kya bolte? Problem-solving capacity. Yeah, that would be a symptom of intelligence. Problem-solving capacity. That means the ability to come in and see that there's something which is not as it should be and work out what needs to be done to solve the problem. So that's a symptom of intelligence. That could also be found in some lower species of life. For instance, some psychological test could be done with chimpanzees, and there's a banana and there's some obstacles, and it can work out how to get past the obstacles and get the banana. So problem-solving capacity, that is, I would accept that as a symptom of intelligence. What else? Good memory, how about that? That's a symptom of good intelligence, isn't it? Without that, it's difficult to be a student. You have to memorize so many things, isn't it? When you have your exam, if you can't remember, you might be good in the study, but if you can't remember anything, then it doesn't help you much. So good memory, that's a symptom of intelligence. Punctuality. Indirectly, punctuality could be seen as a symptom of intelligence, yeah. That means that many good things come from punctuality, and more likely many bad things come from not being punctual. So it is intelligent to be punctual. Well, that brings another then symptom of intelligence, discrimination. The ability to understand what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is favorable, what is unfavorable. And discrimination, that also, one of the points I wanted to think about was analytic ability. That maybe makes the difference between an ordinarily intelligent person and a less intelligent person. Just like Professor Einstein, he wasn't actually a professor, was he? He was the data, the information that was available to him about the world and in the world of physics, and the same information was available to others, but he applied his intelligence with greater analytic ability, and therefore he was able to analyze in ways that others hadn't done so previously. And that also suggests another symptom of intelligence is not simply to be stereotyped, but to try and look at things from different angles. So that might be a symptom of intelligence also. And then we'll find maybe the detectives, police detectives, they, especially you have detective stories in English, there's a whole genre of detective stories, Agatha Christie, who have all these detective stories, and detectives, they're able to look at things from different angles and solve the problems. So analytical ability, the ability to look at things in different ways. Memory, of course, doesn't just mean remembering what you learn in your books, but that also means recognition. Just like you might meet someone and you say, "Hello, what's your name?" And then again you only meet them for the first time for 1 minute, and then 10 days later, if you can say their name again, that would be considered quite a good feat of memory, recognition. There are some people who, they make their living like that. They go in a big hall and they ask 100 people their name, and then they've never seen the people before, and then they go back and say everyone's name again. So that's very good recognition. And there are different kinds of intelligence also. Some people, they're very good with mathematics. Some people, they're very good with logic as applied in argumentation. One kind of intelligence is to be very good in cooking, how to blend all different things together, There are different facets of intelligence. Some species of life have intelligence far greater than humans in some respects. For instance, some birds, well, Arctic terns, they fly from the Arctic to the Antarctic, and they don't pull out their map from under their wings. They have an internal radar. There are birds which fly, migrant birds, they fly from one continent to another. Some kinds of fish, salmon, they live in the sea, but they come back to their birthplace to spawn within freshwater rivers. So how do they do? They're swimming in the great ocean, and somehow when it's time for them to lay their eggs, they go right back to the river where they were born and lay their eggs there. So these are some kinds of intelligence. Even to build a nest, birds who build nests. I don't think any human has the intelligence to do that. How to find out all the little straws and put them together in such... They might be able to do it with a lot of practice, but the birds do it, it seems, without any training whatsoever. So there are various kinds of intelligence, and some people have them more than others, and within psychology there are various theories about how do you become intelligent. Is it nature or nurture? That's the big question. Are you born with intelligence? Is it just your nature? Or is it that by training anyone can be made intelligent? So the Vedic paradigm suggests both, and maybe modern psychology suggests that if you get a young child and from the very beginning you train them in various ways, then you can make a genius out of anyone. That's the theory. So intelligence, I think you would all agree that intelligence is very important. And although some lower species, they have intelligence in some ways more than humans, on the whole we say that humans are more intelligent. Why do we say that? Well, humans seem to be able to amass more knowledge in many fields, and humans, they can manipulate nature in ways that animals can't. Animals also do, just like birds building nests. They manipulate nature, but not in any manner that is nearly as sophisticated as do human beings. And human beings have various arts and sciences that they have developed. Now, you may wonder why I'm talking all about this and I'm dressed like this. And shouldn't I be speaking something about religion or self-realization? Well, okay, let's jump to self-realization. Vedic paradigm. Veda means knowledge. Of course, that's a symptom of intelligence, the ability to amass knowledge. But in the... Veda means knowledge. And in the Vedic understanding, the real or best symptom of intelligence is inquisitiveness. And knowledge develops from inquisitiveness, from the desire to know. But it's not just inquisitiveness, but the desire to know the most important thing. And that, I would propose to you, is the symptom of the best intelligence. This is the best level of intelligence. To try to understand, to ask, to inquire about what is the ultimate meaning of everything. So in the Vedic or Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jignasa. Now, of course, in modern science we also hear about the theory of everything. They want to bring all the various scientific theories together under one umbrella theory. All the constants together and define them all in terms of one equation, with the idea that everything can be described in terms of mathematics. So that's intelligent inquiry, but from the Vedic perspective, there's a big hole in it, black hole. So something missing, something very big missing. And that is in modern science, it is generally presumed, there are certain assumptions which I find quite unintelligent. One of the assumptions is that, the assumption in modern science is that we can understand everything that is to be understood can be understood by applying our intelligence to it. And that proposition is in itself unintelligent. Because one symptom of intelligence is to know your own limitations. Just like confidence could be considered a symptom of intelligence, but it's also intelligent to know your own limitations. As I gave the example, I might be very confident in challenging a boxing champion to a fight, but that confidence would not be a sign of intelligence. We should know our own limitations. So despite the tremendous intelligence that is applied in modern science, by which you are all able to study, you're not doing the research that, well, maybe some of you are postgraduate students, but to become a postgraduate research member of the faculty, then you have to first of all learn so many things which have been discovered by others' inquiries. So no doubt there is a tremendous amount of intelligence that has been invested in the modern scientific endeavor. But nevertheless, with confidence, it may be, you might consider it to be overly bold, but I would like to propose that there is some basic lack of intelligence in the orthodox scientific outlook, not with all scientists, but with what we might call the general scientific outlook, in that they overestimate their ability to understand reality. They think that we can understand everything, and that everything is to be understood, can be understood by what we can see, touch, taste, smell, feel, hear. This is the empiric method, that we only accept as real that which we can see and quantify. If we can see something, if we can measure it, then we accept it as real. If we can't measure it, then we don't accept it as being real, we just think it's fairy stories. I'll give an example of this. How many of you read The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins? I don't think it's become very popular here in India. That The Brief History of Time, probably all of you read it. Is it? No? Yes? No? Well, anyway, that's Richard Dawkins is probably the world's #1 atheist. He is a professor of evolutionary biology at Oxford University, and he wrote a book called The God Delusion, in which he proposes that the belief in God is just a delusion. So I read that book, and one of the points he makes in that book is about the belief in ghosts. And he says that, well, when he was a child, once at night he was lying awake at night on his bed, and he saw the curtain, some shadows moving on the curtain, and he was very afraid. He thought it was a ghost. And then he stood up and he looked and he saw it was just some light from the street reflecting. And with that one anecdote, he rejected the literally thousands of anecdotes of ghosts being experienced in cultures all over the world since time immemorial. That is not scientific. We can't scientifically prove the existence of ghosts because science deals with matter, but not the kind of subtle matter which make up ghosts. So that's just one example. I'm not very interested in ghosts, and I don't think you are either. But the presumption that there is only matter, that there is no supernatural strata of existence, to a priori, that means without considering the matter, just without investigating the matter, just to presume that science means that there is nothing spiritual. And if there's anything which seems to be spiritual, we just call it a delusion. That is not intelligent. So I would like to propose that although undoubtedly a lot of intelligence has manifested what is called modern science, there's also a very strong platform of unintelligence, which for no good reason rejects a huge area of human experience which has been there since time immemorial in all cultures, the spiritual dimension. So intelligence means to inquire, and the Vedanta Sutra begins, Atato Brahma Jignasa. We should inquire into the nature of Brahma. So Brahma, that is a Sanskrit term, and in English it's difficult to translate. Sometimes it's translated as the absolute truth, ultimate reality. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, it's what is Brahma that is described. Yato, I forgot it. What is it? Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yat prayatyapi sangvishanti, tad vijigyasasva tad brahmeti. That from which everything is manifested, that in which everything exists, that into which everything again enters, that is the proper subject for inquiring into. That is called Brahma. So that is the ultimate reality. And who are we? This inquiry, we want to understand what is everything. Well, we could begin with understanding who are we. Most people never think very deeply about this. We presume that, well, I was born in Hyderabad, so I'm from Hyderabad. I'm from Andhra Pradesh, but we're going to turn it into Telangana very soon, we hope. Jai Telangana! Actually, I think you might not like this, but I think this Jai Telangana thing is not a sign of very great intelligence. Don't mind. I don't want to talk politics here. So, I'm from Hyderabad. I am a student at Osmania University. I am Telugu or whatever. We define ourselves in terms of this body, but we don't consider that the body is temporary. Who am I? Am I this body? If your body is, say, 20 years old, where were you 21 years ago? You may say, well, I didn't exist. Well, this body didn't exist. But are you the body? What's in this body? What are the main ingredients in the body? There's a lot of water, which means hydrogen and oxygen, a lot of carbon, and then lots, all different elements. There's lots of, well, not lots, but relatively lots of nitrogen, and there's even some gold in there probably, but it wouldn't be worth trying to get it out. Lots of lead. In modern life, we have heavy metal, lead, mercury, all kinds of things we don't want much of it. They're in the body. It's called pollution. So, what are you? Are you carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen? No. If I bring a whole bunch of chemicals together and say, well, this is a potential human being. Really? Are we chemical? No. We don't stop to think. We just presume I am this body. But we are consciousness. We are conscious living beings separate from the body. And actually there are hundreds and thousands of cases all over the world of reports of people who've understood they're not their body by having out-of-body experiences. OBEs, it's called. Everything these days has an acronym. So it often happens. People get in an accident and then they're taken to the hospital and they're unconscious, and they look down on their body being operated on, and after the operation they tell the doctor everything that he did, although they have no knowledge. They can even say if the doctor told some joke to the nurse and all this kind of thing. So it's very common that people, they have these out-of-body experiences. How is that possible? Because the body and the person are not the same. Actually, if we think that I am the body and the body is chemicals, then my mother is not my mother, because 7 years ago every single chemical that made up my body has now been replaced. So there's no single atom within my body which was there 7 years ago. That means that I don't have any relationship with, well, actually my mother passed away quite a few years ago, but I'm just saying this theoretically. If we are just chemicals, then I don't have any relationship with my mother, because the body that was born from her body has changed completely. So what has stayed the same? Well, we may say the genetic code has stayed the same. But where in the genetic code is the consciousness of understanding I am? So these questions in what we might call orthodox science, they're not even asked. So I find that a lack of intelligence, that they're not even asked. These are the most important things, aren't they? I mean, you're all studying here at this university. Why? So that you can have a better future, I guess, isn't it? That's the idea. You're studying for your benefit. But if we don't, I am studying so I can have a better future. But first of all, we should understand who I am. If we're thinking of a better future and we're defining it only in terms of this lifetime, well, we're really missing who we are. Because we, from the Vedas, we understand, Veda means knowledge, we are conscious living beings. We are, presently our consciousness is channeled through this body, through the senses, the mind, the intelligence. the brain, we may say, well, the brain is the seat of consciousness. But not really. The brain is, it's an instrument. Just like, for instance, you can watch on TV a cricket match from the other side of the world, from England or something like that, live cricket match. But the TV has nothing to do with the cricket match per se, it's only channeling that. So in the same way, the intelligence or the consciousness that is channeled through the brain, but we are discrete individual living beings. A 20-year-old, where was he 21 years ago? He existed. And after 200 years, when this body, this present combination of chemicals will no longer exist, the person will continue to exist because the person is separate from the body. That's called the Atma. The Atma is separate from the body. So the first sign of intelligence is to be inquisitive. And another sign of intelligence is to be inquisitive about the most important things. If we're very inquisitive about something of no consequence, that is a sign of not very great intelligence. There are magazines such as Cineblitz, in which there is much discussion about what different film stars eat for breakfast and which other film stars they're having arguments with and which other film stars they're having love affairs with. So this is use of intelligence to find out all these details and report on them, but the very subject matter shows something lacking in basic intelligence because it's of really no consequence what such and such a film star said to another film star. So that's an example of misused intelligence, or applying intelligence to something which is of no consequence. And we can take that further also. Just like this Telangana issue, and you may not like me to say this, but after all, this land has been here for time immemorial, and different people have come, and at different times people thought there were different political there was a king, and then there were Nizams, and then the Nizams are under the British, and then there was Andhra Pradesh, and then there may be Telangana, and then who knows, it's always changing. The political structure is always changing. But the real purpose of human life is to understand who we are, what is the ultimate reality, and what is for our ultimate benefit. You are very intelligently studying at this university for your benefit, so you can have a better future. That means you hope that after qualifying here, you will go on and you'll have a career or whatever for about, say, 40 years. And that will be most of your life. And you'll have a better future than if you didn't study here. Okay, so 40 years, and after 40 years there's 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, and then bye-bye. What happens after that? Who's seriously thinking about this? If we put all our intelligence into arranging a situation only for this lifetime, which goes like that, just like that, just like a bubble. A bubble comes, gone. So our whole life, if you see time, how great is time? Immeasurable. Our life is just like a bubble. Kamala dala jala jivana talamala. Just like a drop of water on a leaf drops down. Come, gone. But we are eternal living beings. So it's intelligent to think not only about this life, but about the life that goes on and on and on and on and on. And there are Apart from the laws of physics, there are the laws of the universe also. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction in classical physics. Okay, so on the karma, on the platform of karma also, what we do, there's a reaction to that. We should consider. If we do good things, we get a good reaction. If we do bad things, we get a bad reaction. That's why some people are born in rich families. Some people are born in poor families. There's a reason behind it. It's not just arbitrary. It's not just some chemicals interacting in various ways. There are laws behind it. Laws of the universe. But these laws can't be measured with machines. They can be understood by hearing from self-realized persons. So, real intelligence means to understand, first of all, to be inquisitive, and to be inquisitive about that which is of real importance. Parabhavastavad abodhajata yavanna jignyasata atmatattvam. As long as one does not inquire into atmatattva, the knowledge of the self beyond the chemicals, then whatever else we do is all simply wasted. So all useless. We may be a successful engineer or doctor or whatever, just bubble, just like that, come and go. So Telangana also, it'll be there for some years and then someone else will come again and change it all and make something else. That's the nature of this world. Everything is changing. So within this short human form of life, we should use the extra intelligence that we have, which is more than the birds, more than the beasts, more than the snakes, more than the insects. Use that intelligence to find out our highest good. And that is the indication, that is the recommendation of Vedanta. Now, Vedanta is not much studied in India nowadays, but actually this is a system of knowledge at a highly intelligent platform. People are enamored by Western science and Western philosophy and Western food and Western everything. But actually this land was a land of the most intelligent people. These discussions of Vedanta, it requires a great intelligence to even begin to understand that. And many people from the West who are very intelligent, they can't even begin to understand the concepts. They're so much convinced that I am this body, which is actually a sign of ignorance, that they can't even begin to understand the concepts of Vedanta. So, while you're studying science, it would also be good for you to utilize your intelligence in the most intelligent way, which is for understanding Atma Tattva, the science of the self. So this Krishna conscious movement, you saw that we were singing Hare Krishna, and you may think, well, what's that got to do with Vedanta? But actually Vedanta, that culminates in bhakti. Bhakti, that the sweetness or the beauty of bhakti is that anyone may take to it, even without any great knowledge, but those who are the most intelligent, they should certainly take to it, after understanding everything about everything. When we understand everything, how can we understand everything? We're tiny little beings, but we can conceptually, we can't understand everything about everything. we can't understand, we don't even understand what's going on in my stomach right now. If you studied biology, you might say there are different glands which are, if you've eaten something, then different glands will open up and different kinds of enzymes will enter in your stomach, but you don't know exactly what's going on, how much pancreatic glands are exuding and all this kind. You don't know exactly what's going on. You may have some theoretical knowledge. So we can't know everything about everything, but we can know the structure or the framework. Just like you may not understand exactly what's going on in your stomach, but you can have a general idea from studying biology or whatever. So we can understand the framework. What is the framework? That there is the supreme reality, there is the supreme Atma. That person is Krishna. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavang mang prapadyate. In Gita, Krishna says, after many births, one who is actually in full knowledge, in the highest knowledge, surrenders to me. Now we may find that difficult to understand, how Vedanta and all these philosophical concepts, and then Krishna. And Krishna means he's dancing and singing and playing on his flute. And what's that got to do with Vedanta? Well, that's a big subject. But that is actually the fact. That Krishna is the supreme person, the supreme source of everything. And the highest level of consciousness is supreme love. Prem. Krishna is the object of prem. So, at the highest level of intelligence, intelligence doesn't matter. Love, ultimately love matters beyond everything. If you're highly intelligent, even in the material sense, if someone is very intelligent, but they don't love anyone and no one loves them, then they're miserable. And they may use their intelligence for something like how to poison the whole city, how to put potassium cyanide in the water supply, or something like that. Whereas if someone has love, then we don't really care how much they know. Does it matter to you whether your mother is a PhD or not? That doesn't make the relationship between mother and son. This is a material example. Krishna means the reservoir of all spiritual pleasure, of all spiritual love. And after many, many lifetimes of spiritual inquiry, someone may come to the platform of understanding that Krishna is the object of love. Krishna is the ultimate spiritual person, and the goal of life is to awaken our love for Krishna. So, I'm not going to try to explain everything about this. It might take many lifetimes to do so. We don't have so much time now. But I'm just giving some ideas here, trying to provoke your intelligence into thinking about something more than most intelligent people think about. Their intelligence is only functioning on the material level. But real intelligence means to come up to the spiritual level, beyond birth and death. So thank you for patiently listening to me. And all of you who want to beat me up for saying that Telangana issue is not very important can do so now. Or if you like, you can ask some questions. Any questions, please?
How do you get spiritual?
How many? How many? How do you get spiritual life? By asking questions like that. It begins with asking that question. Are you asking how I came? How did I come? Or anyone in... How did I come? You're asking about me.
Yes, yes.
How did I come? Well, by the great mercy of our Guru, Srila Prabhupada. I was born and raised in England, and as I got a little older, means grew up, as I came out of childhood, I looked around me and thought, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be like everyone. I see everyone around me has enough money, everyone has a car, a house, and clothes, and this and that, and you can earn money, but no one's happy. So I don't want to be like that. So I was actually very selfish. I was thinking how I could be happy. And I didn't know. Krishna revealed to me. I got one book written by Srila Prabhupada called Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And actually I was fed up of reading books. I read so many books. At one point I just stopped. I said, oh, so many people are talking. They're very intelligent. There's many things to say, but they don't have any ultimate answers. Then I thought, well, scripture, that's something different. That's something coming from God. Yeah, this is the book I read. So I thought I'd read scripture. I thought I'd only read scripture. So I had some edition of Bhagavad Gita, which I didn't understand at all. There was only the verses were translated. And without a lot of, actually Bhagavad Gita is all Upanishadic. It's all based on the Upanishads. And without some background, it's like, it's like picking up a book on quantum physics. With no background, you can, actually with quantum physics there are lots of symbols, so you can't even begin to read it unless you know what they mean. But say on medicine, there's all words there, but you don't, unless you're trained, you don't understand what they mean. It's technical language. So I couldn't understand Bhagavad Gita. Then I was reading the Bible and I thought Jesus seems to be a pretty good person, but I don't see anyone like him anywhere. I didn't find any Jesus-like person in the church. And then I read about the Quran and I thought, well, it's okay, but nothing much different to Christianity. So I was confused. And then I got this book, Krishna, and I read it, and I didn't understand so much, but I thought, well, it's definitely something very serious. All right, let me go and see the people who are practicing this. So I went and visited the temple of the devotees of Krishna, near to London, and I'd given a task to myself that if anyone can convince me of anything philosophically, I should take it up. And they did, but more than philosophically, I could see immediately that these people, the devotees of Krishna, they were very happy in a way that other people are not happy, in a completely different way, because they're not cultivating material happiness. They were living very simply, and they were very happy. And they were dedicated to God. Now, I wanted to see that also, dedication to God. And also that they were vegetarians, because another reason I didn't like Christianity was this idea of eating meat. I thought, well, that's very cruel. You have to kill the animals. That can't be, that's not a very high level of spiritual understanding. And then in Christianity also I thought, because I was raised in Christianity, and I thought, okay, God, yeah, okay, we can believe in God, but this idea that God, if you don't believe in Him, you have one chance and then He throws you in hell forever, they don't know what they're talking about. So when I heard about reincarnation, I immediately understood this must be correct. We weren't taught about reincarnation at school. No one speaks about, but when I came to hear about that, I immediately understood this must be correct. This one life, it's not all in all. As I am a person, I am a being, I'm more than just a group of chemicals that comes together and disperses after a few years. So reincarnation, I accepted that as a fact. And vegetarianism and God. And so all these different factors together, when I came, I immediately understood. I have to join here. So I did. That's it in brief. Do I believe in rebirth? It doesn't matter whether or not I believe in rebirth. Do you believe that Washington, D.C. is the capital of the United States? You do, yes. If you didn't believe, would it make any difference? If you stood up and said, I don't believe Washington, D.C. is the capital of the United States. Rome is the capital of the United States. Would it make any difference? Washington, D.C. would continue to be the capital of the United States, whether you believe it or not. So in the same way, whether or not I believe in rebirth, it doesn't make any difference. If it's true, it's true, whether or not I believe in it. If it's not true, it's not true, whether or not I believe in it. So we should try to understand with our intelligence whether or not it's true. What is the proof? What would you accept as proof? What would you consider to be proof?
Like science.
By science. Well, if we're talking about the Atma, which is non-material, then how can you understand it by any material science? You might feel, but that's not scientific. Heat, but that's something scientific. That's material, sorry. There's no material means to prove it because Atma by nature is different to matter. So that's what I was saying. There's a problem with science. They think that you can only accept as real that which they can measure by what they can see, taste, touch, smell, feel, hear, and postulate upon. They call that is reality. But why should we presume that all of reality is within the scope of our sensual understanding? Now, actually, there is plenty of what we might call scientific proof of reincarnation. There was one psychologist called Dr. Ian Stevenson. You can Google him. He's dead now, but you can still find him on Google. Who spent his whole life investigating the phenomenon of reincarnation. And he came up with literally, he did it in a very rigorous scientific way. And he came up with literally thousands of cases of people being, mostly children, because after some time they lose the consciousness of their previous life. But they would remember, they would not relate to their parents as parents. They would say, no. There was some case in India where some boy said, I'm not going to eat from you, I'm a Brahmin, you're lower caste. And then they would remember they would remember the nicknames of their previous family, and they'd know what their wife liked to eat, and all kinds of details which could not be impossible to explain by any other means than reincarnation. So actually there is plenty of proof, at least as good as that which is called proof of evolutionary theory. There's no proof of evolutionary theory. We didn't see any common ancestor of the apes and humans, but it's presumed on the basis of what is called the geological record and according to evolutionary theory. So there is at least as good evidence, secondary evidence, what's the word? I'm forgetting the term. The fossil record. Indirect evidence or supportive evidence. There's no direct evidence, but there is at least as good evidence of the phenomenon of reincarnation as there is of evolution. Now, apart from that, we can understand an example that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumarang yovanang jara tata dehantara praptihi. Krishna gives the example that we see a child, the child grows to become a youth. The youth grows to become an adult. The adult becomes old, and then the body dies. So in childhood, youth, adulthood, and old age, the person is the same. It's not a difficult thing to understand. But the body is changing all the time. And the mind is changing all the time. So what is the constant factor? That is the person, or the Atma, which is independent of the body. So the death of the body means that the covering of the Atma has died, but the person, which is separate from the body, continues to exist. It requires some faith, but then it requires some faith to accept evolutionary theory also. How many of you believe that this universe began from a Big Bang? You believe, okay. Can you prove it?
Can you prove?
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you. Can you prove it? Can you prove it? How would you prove it?
There is a lot of literature.
Okay, so I'm saying there's a lot of literature to prove the existence of the Atma also. You don't know the proof, but you accept it on faith that others know it. Isn't it? You can't yourself describe any proof, and actually there isn't any scientist who can describe any proof. It's a theory. They don't know, they can't prove it. They can only hypothesize it. But you don't know, you believe it because many scientists believe it.
Why came a lot of religions?
Wait a minute. Can we stick to one subject at a time? You believe it because you have faith in the predominant scientific theory. Although there are accredited scientists who also don't believe in Big Bang theory, even today. But you believe, you don't know the proof, but you presume there is a proof. So, in that sense, in my field of spirituality, I'm more advanced than you in understanding that aspect of science because I know I can cite and explain the evidence, whereas you just believe it. So ultimately it's a matter of, ultimately everything comes down to faith. How many of you have seen a gene? Anyone? You all believe in the existence of genes. You believe scientists who tell you. You wouldn't be studying here if you didn't believe that there's some system of knowledge that can be understood. So ultimately everything rests on belief. It's just a matter of where you draw the line, that's all. So do we believe in reincarnation? Yes. And it's not blind faith. It's very intelligent faith. Everything is faith ultimately. So what do you want to say? Why are there so many religions? That's the next question. Is it? You wanted to ask, why are there so many religions?
Yes.
Well, there are different levels of understanding. Reality is one. Perception of it is different. Why are there so many different theories about the origin of the universe? You only maybe know one. I read in a magazine a few years ago that among astrophysicists there are about 2,000 theories as to the origin of the universe. Probably most of them are modifications of Big Bang theory. So why are there so many different scientific theories?
They reach one.
Because people don't know. They have a general idea, but they're not sure. So that can be about religion also. People have a general idea, but they're not sure. They may think they're sure. Yeah, anything else?
According to Hindu rituals, sun is a god, but scientifically it is a burning star.
According to that's modern science, the sun is a burning star, and according to Hindu, I guess what we would call mythology, there is a sun god. Well, you say the sun is a god. Well, not. Yeah, there is a sun god, but the Vedic knowledge doesn't say the sun is only a god, but says that there is the sun globe also. Now, before I get into this, I'll just speak something about Jyotish. Generally, in modern Indian languages, Jyotish is understood to be astrology. But astrology is based on astronomy. And in Vedic astronomy, there was detailed knowledge of the movement of the planets. Using ancient Vedic astronomical systems, you can calculate the time that the sun will rise tomorrow in Hyderabad. So that knowledge was there long before it was developed in the West. So we can understand that although a lot of what is called Vedic knowledge doesn't tally with a lot of modern scientific knowledge, at the same time, a lot of the scientific knowledge that is presumed to have been discovered recently in the West was already there in India long before. And actually there was much science which even now there's much science in the ancient world which modern scientists, it's more advanced than modern science can understand. Just like that Qutub Minar in Delhi, otherwise known as Dhruva Stamba. That is the level of metalwork, the fineness of iron is such that it can't be reproduced in modern metallurgy. There are many instances. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is this day-by-day description. First of all, it describes how at the time of sexual union of a man and a woman, the semen mixes with the ovum. Now, ancient cultures, we're told, they didn't have any knowledge of this. They don't know how babies are born. It's a recent discovery that semen from the man's body mixes with the ovum from the woman's body, and then it germinates. But the same knowledge is there in the Puranas from ancient times. And day by day, on the first day it's like this, second day like this, third day like this. At 7 months, consciousness enters. This is all corroborated by modern science. So it may seem that the existence of the sun god, that is something just mythical. But on the other hand, if people had such developed science in the ancient world, then why would they invent something mythical? I don't take it as mythical. Rather, we understand that everything in the universe is going on under some conscious management. The movements of the planets, the movements of the stars, it's all going on under the platform of conscious management. It's not anarchy. Just like in the state there is required some government, some organization, so there is organization of the universe also. So there is a sun god, there is a moon god, there is an ultimate god over everyone, but we may not be able to perceive them with our gross senses. Why? Because they don't allow us to see them. We have to come to a purified platform of consciousness, then we can appreciate their existence. Just like if you want to, this is a bit of a mundane example, but you just can't go and see Manmohan Singh. You have to have some qualification. You have to give 50 crores to the Congress party or something like that. You have to have some qualification by which he will allow himself to be seen by you. So in the same way, in Kali Yuga, people, because they are sinful and of very gross consciousness, then we don't have privy to see or understand the devas. So yes, there's sun god, moon god, water god. There are various spirits in every tree, in life. Life is the ultimate principle of everything, not matter. That is the difference between Vedic science and modern science. Modern science says that matter is the ultimate principle of everything, although they can't even define life in terms of matter. They can't explain what it means, what life means. They can only explain it by the symptoms. They can say that brain waves stopped, heartbeat stopped, respiratory system stopped, blood circulation stopped, dead. But they can explain that someone is dead, but they cannot explain that life, the existence of life, it's not just simply because the brain waves are, the brain is functioning, the respiratory system is functioning, the lymph system is, it's not just because all these systems are functioning that there is life. Life is independent of matter. So gross science takes it that matter is the ultimate principle of everything, and their life is just a symptom of, or a byproduct of matter. Whereas Vedic science says that life is the ultimate principle of everything, and that life and matter both exist, but matter is subordinate to life. As stated in the Gita, Krishna says, Bhumirapo nalo vayo kangmano buddhireva cha ahankara ityang me bhina prakritir ashtadha. Krishna says that there are 8 basic elements which comprise his external energy. That's earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. When we say elements, we're not talking in terms of the periodic table, but we're talking in terms of basic types, or basic types of matter, basic groupings of matter. Then Krishna says, Aparayam itastvanyang prakriting vidhi me param jiva bhutang mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. But Krishna says there is another kind of energy, which is the jivas, the atmas. It's the jiva, it's the life which gives life and movement to the universe. Ultimately, it's consciousness which makes the universe move. Jagat means gachati iti jagat. That which moves is the jagat. So it is moving because there is life. It's the life energy. There are so many different energies. The ultimate energy is life energy. Jiva Shakti. Yes, please.
Madhav Maharaj, it was a nice presentation. Actually, I have a question. Like you said that there are some people who narrate about their out-of-the-body experiences. You also quoted about a person like who was being operated, and after operation he was actually talking about what happened in the hospital room, in the operation room. So actually my question is like when we sleep, we are aware that we are sleeping. Like though we are in sleeping kind of...
Oh, that's actually another proof of the existence of the Atma. The state of sleeping, that we remember we were deeply asleep when we had no consciousness. When we're deep, this is also given as a proof of the Atma in Vedanta study. There are different levels of consciousness. Jagrata, wakefulness. Swapna means sleep, dreaming. And Sushupti means deep sleep, where you're so deeply asleep that you're not dreaming. But someone may wake up and say, I was deeply asleep. That means they were conscious that they had no active consciousness. So that's also given as a proof that there is Atma there, which is always conscious, even the state of deep sleep.
Actually, my question is like, what happens to the person when he's under anesthesia? Does he forget himself? Like, I do not forget myself when I'm sleeping. I'm still kind of
In anesthesia, the consciousness, what happens to consciousness? It becomes operating on low frequency. It doesn't cease to exist, but it becomes covered. And there are cases in anesthesia also of people out-of-body experiences.
So it's like that the person is not fully aware of everything, but still kind of is not knowing much, but he knows something.
In deep anesthesia, there is no awareness of being aware. There is no consciousness of being conscious. So we can say it's suspended, but it doesn't cease to exist. Temporarily suspended, but it doesn't cease to exist. Otherwise, you couldn't come out of anesthesia.
So in a way, anesthesia can overpower the Atma?
No, anesthesia does not overpower the Atma.
Because
everything is under the control of the Supreme Controller. Only He is the Supreme Controller. So, the very fact that there is the possibility of anesthesia is also within His jurisdiction. He makes an arrangement like that, just like there's deep sleep. It's all within His arrangement. Yes, please.
What is the explanation about the natural calamities other than scientific?
Natural calamities other than scientific. Everything in this world is a calamity. When it becomes more intense, we call it a calamity. But actually, our state of ignorance of our original blissful position, spiritual position, that is a calamity. If we talk about earthquakes, tsunamis, these are called natural calamities. The explanation, the ultimate explanation is that people are performing sinful activities, they get a result. That's the ultimate explanation. In Kali Yuga there are many of them. The number of natural calamities is increasing as people are becoming more sinful. It's not always necessary to look for it. It's not necessary that the Vedic knowledge is always different. We can also say, just like recently there was a flood in the Himalayas. So one reason it's said is that the day before that happened, one ancient Shakti Pit, one ancient temple on a Supreme Court order was shifted. That's an ancient place of worship of Kali. And on a Supreme Court order that was moved to make yet another hydroelectric dam. So it could be said that the anger of Kali caused that. But then another reason is because the forest cover has been cut in the Himalayas, and one after another hydroelectric dam has been made. So the whole ecological system has been completely disturbed. So we can say that there are ultimate, subtle, spiritual causes, but that may be explained also in geological terms. If I have a pain in my stomach, I must have done something to get that. We can call that bad karma. But we could also say that that's the ultimate cause, but the immediate cause might be that, well, I just ate too much. Well, it works both ways, because to eat too much is also sinful, and it also, maybe that's not a good example. Okay, I slipped and I fell down and I broke my leg. So what's the reason for that? Well, the floor was slippery, and I applied my foot at such and such an angle and such a force, and then I wasn't able to maintain because getting older and my sense of balance is going down. And then I fell over. And the impact caused a breaking in the bone. So you can say, you can analyze the immediate material causes, but we may say ultimately it's because I did something sinful to warrant that. I think we have to go, isn't it? We have to go to another program. Yeah, I have a program in Secunderabad now. It's supposed to begin what time? 7:30? What's the time? What's the time now? 7 o'clock. Sorry? Who is the supreme in spiritual life? Krishna. How to understand? Bahunam janmanamante jnanavang mang prapadyate. After many, many lives you may understand. But if you want to understand now, you can understand right now also, if you're willing to understand. Otherwise it may take many lifetimes. Yeah, many people claim Jesus is supreme, Sai Baba is supreme, Amma, this hugging Wali Mataji, she's supreme. So many ideas. I am supreme. Some people say that. Idiots. How can you understand? Well, if you want to understand, you have to be very serious to understand it, isn't it? E equals mc squared. If you want to understand it, you have to be very serious. You're going to have to study a lot, isn't it? To understand how E equals mc squared. So, otherwise you can just accept it. So I can tell you Krishna is supreme, you can accept it. If you want to understand it, you're going to have to seriously apply yourself to understand it. There is evidence. You have to be willing to follow the process to understand it. Or otherwise, if we just accept that the Vedas is knowledge of spiritual reality, then we can accept Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Vedaischa sarver aham eva vedyaha. In all the Vedas I am to be known. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Matapparataram nanyat kinchid asti. There is nothing greater than me. We can just accept it on the authority of Bhagavad Gita, which is accepted by all the great spiritualists. Just like you accept Big Bang Theory because all or most of the big scientists, they accept it. You don't know exactly why or how. Your personal experience. You were there and you saw there was nothing, and all of a sudden there was a... It can't be your personal experience because according to Big Bang, you came after. There was nothing. There was nothing and then there was everything. You can't say it's according to your personal experience. If you say that, that's contradicting the Big Bang Theory. So, wait a minute. So, you accept Big Bang Theory because prominent scientists accept it. So, in the spiritual field, all the great acharyas, I mean Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vallabhacharya, Vishnu Swami, Nimbakacharya, they all accept on the basis of deep study and realization, deep study of the Vedic knowledge that Krishna is supreme. So we can accept it on that basis. That doesn't mean that we just accept it blindly. We should try to understand also. But we can accept because those who clearly understand the subject, they accept it. On that basis we can accept it. Then we can study. Why do they accept it? All right, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, I have to go. We all have to go. We won't be in this body very long. So where are you going? That should be the, yeah, we will come. That's the whole point. We go and we come. We go and we come. We go and we come. Life after life after life. Where are we going to? In human life, we can direct our attention so that we go to that place where we never come back from. That is the spiritual world. That is the abode of Krishna. Hare Krishna.